The UK tabloids recently caused upset because they were obviously lacking information about the reality of German princely titles and the royal status of your family. They provoked you as being a fake prince.
The monarchy in Germany was abolished in 1919, while noble titles have been removed and forbidden in Austria. They exist in Germany as part of the surname. Unlike in the United Kingdom, German titles even appear in passports like mine.
Okay, so the German authorities have confirmed that you are legally a real prince. Thank you for showing us your passport. In Germany, you still have a former royal family, your cousin Karl Friedrich, Prince of Hohenzollern, who believes that he speaks for the majority of your family, initiated the press report stating that, in his view, you are not a full member of the family. He complains that you are not his blood. What does this mean?
The concept of having the right blood is a Nazi concept. This may be Karl Friedrich's world, but we here in the United Kingdom can't deal with that. Today, a legitimated child is legally a child like any other. They own all the rights of a family member. The lawmaker made sure that the law does not establish second-class children. If the British royal family were to legitimize a son, he would be a fully entitled and once and forever accepted child, not a fake son, not a fake prince. That is why birth certificates are altered to reflect the real, the legal, valid status of a child. Whatever my cousin suddenly feels, and I must say he has known me for ages, here is my birth certificate bearing me as a Prince of Hohenzollern.
Are you a royal?
Look at my birth certificate, please.
Were you born a prince?
Again, please look at my birth certificate. However, by DNA test, it is clear that my father is unknown. He must be English, and I'm very proud of it. Whatever the situation was, the Hohenzollerns, and this is not only my mother, decided to confirm my status, and the official valid result you have looked at now a few times. I could have searched for public attention, but I never did. As a widower I am, I live a quiet life in the Surrey Hills. Now, to make the charities strong, which I represent, I sometimes appear here and there.
Do you think of yourself as a Prince of Hohenzollern?
I have only one valid birth certificate and one legal name, not two or three. Would you like to see the document again?
Thank you, but no. It could not be clearer. Did the journalist see this document, which makes it evident who you are?
Of course, he had it on his desk when he wrote his defamatory report. But, as we all know, in his business, facts are not that relevant. What counts for him, is selling his paper. And this means making the audience outraged under all circumstances, even if the news is proper rubbish.
How would you describe your relationship to Carl Friedrich?
We had a neutral, relatively silent relationship for decades. There was never, ever a shadow of an unfriendly mindset or of a dispute. He addressed me correctly as a princely member of the Hohenzollern family with all the full credentials, like the style of His Serene Highness, which is correct and fair. Here is an example from a quarter of a century ago, written by himself. 10 years later, in 2012, Carl Friedrich sent a representative from Sigmaringen to the burial of my beloved late wife in Hagen, a sign of respect that I noted with true gratitude. His recent defamatory instructions to the tabloids were a sudden outbreak of anger and a real shock for me.
Why did Prince Carl Friedrich do this, do you think?
To understand Carl Friedrich's outburst, we must see his personal situation. Not I'm in a precarious position, but he is. He uses his lifelong titles like a ruling prince, Fürst, even though they are forbidden in democratic Germany, because they can fuel the current monarchical unrest represented by the Reichsbürger movement. Because Prince Reuß sits currently in prison, the Crown Prosecution Service in Germany has a new file on their desk looking at Carl Friedrich's approach to his occupation, which he believes is being a ruler. This endangers the strictly democratic constitution in my country and is a serious matter. I think, to be honest, he lives in a split reality which drives people anyway crazy, especially when they are not the brightest candles on the cake. Carl Friedrich, who lives in a forgotten corner of rural Germany, must have learned from the internet that I'm leaving my countryside life and my philosophical studies from time to time to fulfill tasks as a patron, ambassador and supporter of a dozen more or less significant cultural institutions in London. Late in my life, I became a sporadic public figure, but this helped these charities to benefit through new projects and charity events with all sorts of hard fact positive results. The Hohenzollern family also massively benefits because this adds to the public reputation of the otherwise totally unknown family in the United Kingdom. Dear friends belonging to the high society in Madrid said yesterday to me, instead of complaining, Carl Friedrich should pay you for what you do. But this logic is too simple, correct and simple, inaccessible to somebody who suffers from the psychological cramp that he could be a monarch or monarchical ruler, but must live in a democracy, whilst I'm a deep believer in democracy and live in a monarchy. I think it troubles Carl Friedrich that people like me, who intensely contribute to the community, see sometimes members of the British royal family. For him, the most regular royal meet is his non-professional jazz band somewhere in Germany, which he calls something crass like royal grooving. I try very hard, but I cannot see any other explanation for Carl Friedrich's post to the tabloids than envy. The psychological problem gets magnified by the fact that he has the identical and in no legal way superior standing like mine. We both are nothing less and nothing more than a Prince of Hohenzollern. For that very reason, I qualify very well as a mirror of his own existence, which is meaningless beyond the small town in which he lives. I think he does not like what he sees in his mirror, and I became his proxy who needs to be beaten. That is the only reason I can imagine after decades of knowing me, and no other change in my life than my reduced publicity for my work, for the dementia help and music colleges, etc.
This sounds like you're searching to understand him. Are you forgiving him?
I was not really hit by the nonsense he initiated. The topic of the unknown German citizen Karl Friedrich washing dirty family laundry in public, it is in his view dirty, in my view it's clean and open, is not interesting for people in the UK, even though he attacked a family member who is established in society here. However, I'm giving this interview to provide facts to the public in case there is anybody interested in foreign European nobility. Forgiving his hate campaign is still not an easy one because he attacked my mother. She worked her entire life extremely hard as a carer, and you can believe she is a golden heart, she's a good heart, good person, until she could not continue anymore. Since she retired, and she's not well, I have been supporting her financially over many years. For this, Karl Friedrich criticizes my mother and accuses her of corruption. He creates a picture that I bought her. And this is really dirty thinking. Who would support each other a lifelong, decades, until death separates mother and son? My real and true relationship between us has been known to Karl Friedrich for, as I already said, a quarter of a century, and was never an issue or reason for a dispute. Anyway, the family has a wealth of 1 billion euros, and I may remind you, this is 1 million times 1,000. How can you buy a member of this family? However, the facts are, now he calls me publicly a fraudster, whom he discovered recently.
This sounds very odd, looking at your letters exchanged a quarter of a century ago. Your cousin refers to a so-called nobility expert who confirms that you are a fraudster. Who is this?
This man is called Bernd Bilker, and he's a self-made nobility. I think Karl Friedrich stops the electricity supply now. Bernd Bilker is a self-made so-called nobility expert in the Netherlands, a man of meaningless existence who searches urgently for attention by publishing made-up statements about other people's family matters. He believes that a serious, lifelong, lasting decision of a mother is a loophole if the mother is from a formerly royal family. And this is utter unintelligent nonsense, because a proper law for a decision which is welcomed and regulated by the lawmaker is not a whole. It is a law organizing social life which is wanted. However, he has an infamous past. He already tried to damage my late wife's reputation 15 years ago, which was a very sad incident. He published a report in a similar defamatory way when we lived in one of the residences in his country, Castle Aldengur. 2 weeks later, after he published his report, so this is 15 years ago, this man found out that he lacked information and had to publish an apology for his incorrect and defamatory statements about my and my wife's royal background. Instead of having learned his lesson, he made now new pomp as a nobility expert. He is a man searching for meaning for himself, which is helpless in a way. He should, this would be my recommendation to him, he should support a local charity instead and help those in need.
As a consequence, are you considering any type of action?
No, not yet. Karl Friedrich's performance is too ridiculous and shrill to be taken seriously. I spoke to many people and they were not thinking about it even. However, I have to apologize to the public for him, who obviously would love to fill my social position in London, but sadly is an example of the members of my family who are not very privileged by nature.
Until a few weeks ago, the Hohenzollern family was accused of supporting the Nazi regime and did not qualify for compensation. They withdrew their attempts to reclaim pieces of art which were property of the family. You told us that you will present some artifacts and personal items from your Hohenzollern family collection.
It is true, the publicity of my family is horrible, and the more is my positive input needed, and to become public to improve the publicity of the family. I will display and explain unique pieces for this reason, like Emperor Frederick III's personal cigarette case, which stands for his passion for smoking, also likely for his throat cancer and his early death. It is speculation, but not an unlikely one, that World War I would not have broken out with him being alive or having his son's rule delayed. The cigarette case is an important relic of the time and still smells of tobacco. This is touching history. History becomes true when it touches us. My Hohenzollern family collection is at the moment not public, and some of the really interesting pieces, the storytelling pieces, I will present in short video presentations.